exciting program today. I'm excited because my first guest is Steve T. Jones. And as you guys know, I frequently have Steve on the show, and I talk about him behind his back in front of all you guys when he's not here, because he's the go-to guy. He's one of those guys that, the big celebrities from Hollywood as well as business go to him when they need a little brain tweaking, right? Steve T. Jones is a board-certified clinical hypnotherapist. He has been a practicing hypnotherapist since the 1980s. If you Google his name, Steve T. Jones, you'll see that he's just got tons of great content out there. He's an author of 22 books on hypnotherapy. He's also a member of the National Guild of Hypnotists, American Board of Hypnotherapy, president of the American Alliance of Hypnotists, and on the board of the directors of the Los Angeles chapter of the American Lung Association, and the director of the California State Register Steve T. Jones School of Hypnotherapy. In order to keep up with the very latest in research, he regularly attends training conferences. As always, it's my pleasure to welcome Steve G. Jones back to Money for Lunch.
Hey, Bert.
Let me turn the mic on.
All right, I'm on. Hey, Bert, how you doing? Great to be here.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you stopping by. It's always fun to have you on the show. I always learn so much, and today I wanted to talk to you about this. I guess it's called the irrational mind. Because I think that a lot of us think that we do things purely on logic, and I want to see what your thought is on this. I think most of us really run on emotions, right? I mean, we think that we do things logically, but it's just our irrational mind taking over. What's your thought?
Well, there was a great book recently by a research psychologist. I don't recall his name, but it was called Predictably Irrational. And talked about how we think we're making decisions with our logic, but we're actually using other means to make those decisions. And he showed how it's actually quantifiable and predictable. We're so irrational from what we veer away so much from what looks like logic, especially when making purchases, that we're very predictable doing it. We do it just like other people do it. So it's very interesting. And some of it is based on emotion. If you go to seminars, they're very aware of this, that you will buy on emotion. Commercials are very aware of this, that you will buy on emotion. So whereas we like to think that we're super smart, intelligent grown-ups, there's a part of us that can be pretty well controlled, and that is, and part of that is our emotional side.
Gotcha. All right, so let's talk about this real quick. Because you work with mind stuff. You work with the mind and the emotions and stuff like that. And how do you help people deal with their emotions, especially the negative ones? I mean, obviously, if you're having constantly positive emotions, then you probably don't need too much tweaking. But I think a lot of us are in this reactive mode and we're either starving for love or starving for something else or whatever. And we sometimes feed these emotions with food or drugs or, by some other weird ways, just cutting ourselves. What's going on with our emotions that we choose these sometimes destructive ways to express them?
Well, we are multi-dimensional creatures, and I don't mean anything metaphysical by that. I just mean that how we got to where we are, there are a lot of different contributing factors along the way. Our parents, our unique experiences, our predisposition to the way we would deal with things in life just based on our biology, and that's individual. So there are a lot of aspects of us that are not really easily quantifiable. We'd have to know the complete case history of the individual. But in many cases where you see someone going to abusive behaviors, such as gambling when they're losing and continuing to gamble, or drinking when it's affecting their job and their health and their family and continue to drinking, or As you mentioned, even cutting, we see that sometimes. These things look extreme to an outsider, but to the person involved in it, they often don't appear that way. They just appear to be something that they're doing. Maybe it got a little out of hand. Maybe it's going to get better. Or maybe it's not as bad as everyone thinks it is. These are the usual thoughts of the people going through it until they bottom out. When they reach rock bottom, they become homeless, for example, from gambling too much or drinking too much. Then they seek help. But the way hypnotherapy looks at it is confidence. They're obviously lacking confidence. So why are they lacking confidence? Well, as I said, we're multidimensional. They could have gotten there in a number of ways. So hypnotherapy, as a hypnotherapist, the way we deal with this is we work on rebuilding their confidence. So I would say from a perspective of a hypnotherapist, these all have to do with confidence, even though they got to a lack of confidence through different routes.
Right. You know what? It's so interesting that you honed in on that because I'm thinking there's the fear factor is cited for holding most people back. So the reverse of that is the confidence factor. You see people that do extraordinary things or do things that are crazy or make these what do you call it? These leap forward, and it's because they have confidence in themselves. They obviously have a higher self-image, or the way they talk to themselves is obviously in a way that really gears them up. I was watching a documentary on Roger Bannister, the guy who broke the first 4-minute mile, and it would have been interesting to interview this guy and find out what his psyche was when he did that. Up until the time that he broke that 4-minute mile, people thought it was impossible, that your legs would disintegrate or you'd have a heart attack or whatever other fallacies they had. But again, he broke that 4-minute mile, and then the next year, like 10,000 people broke the 4-minute mile. I can't remember how many have done it, but they're reciting that now high school kids routinely break the 4-minute mile, and it all has to do with that confidence. The same thing in the dating world. Guys who sit there in silence and suffer because they have no confidence in asking a girl out or even starting a conversation. It's amazing what low confidence will do to somebody's quality of life.
Oh, absolutely. And I was at a meeting the other day, and some guy was telling me he's new to town, and he got to town about a year ago. He didn't know what's normal. He's a real estate guy. He sells real estate. He didn't know what's normal to sell. And so his first year, he sold 38 homes, which is way, way above normal. And realtors are happy to sell probably 3 to 5 homes. And he sold, I think it was 38 homes in his first year. So it's all a matter of that. If you don't have a bar in your mind, then you just run with it, literally. You just go for it. If you do have in your mind what's normal or average, we as humans tend to congregate around that average because we know that's what's normal. So to go beyond that doesn't seem likely, so you're less likely to put more effort into it because it's probably not going to happen anyway in your mind. And to go below that, so sometimes the average helps out a little bit. So to go below that is also considered quote-unquote abnormal also. So you tend to congregate around that average. And then once someone like Roger Bannister comes along and just knocks that out of the park, then we say, wait a minute, there's a new normal that we should congregate around. And so now, as you're saying, for high school kids, it's normal to run a 4-minute mile. They group around that. So it's really a matter of, if you think about it, hypnosis. Again, this is the way a hypnotherapist looks at the world. People are conditioned to believe something, and so that's how they act.
Yeah, you know what, and I like the way you phrase that. We're conditioned. And sometimes that conditioning is, as you mentioned earlier, maybe from parents or peer groups. And sometimes that conditioning is from our own inner, self-talk that we've spoken about before. So let me ask you this. How do you go about changing a condition? If you want more confidence, if you want to maybe break a bad habit, how does a hypnotherapist look at changing somebody's condition or reprogramming their condition thinking?
Well, unlike a psychologist, and I have nothing against psychologists, I actually love the work they do. Also, a talk therapist would be in this category. Psychologists or a talk therapist might spend a considerable amount of time going into the person's past and looking at what happened, how they feel about it, and so forth. And I think that has tremendous therapeutic value. And for people who want to have those long conversations over a period of time, I think that's wonderful. It's a great healing modality. But a hypnotherapist would look at it as attempting to change the person more quickly. So we would just focus on mainly a little bit of the past, but mainly on, what can we do here and now to change this? So we would create new associations, sort of rewiring the neural pathways. If you associate, for example, it being normal with drinking, drinking equals normal, we want to change that. Drinking is abnormal. Drinking is something you don't do. Drinking is something that's dangerous, that's poisonous. So we're rewiring through a number of techniques in hypnotherapy and neurolinguistic programming, rewiring the associations the person has over a few sessions to make the distinctions different. So instead of drinking being happiness and fun, alcohol is poison and dangerous and something to be avoided.
Right. And what's interesting about this is, to use that example, is that could be obviously applied to anything else. Eating a bunch of junk food, smoking, biting your nails. The list can go on. If you build this new condition or meaning or we call it emotional connection to it, you're more likely to stay away from that activity because, as you mentioned, now you think of it as poison or as harm, and we're just not going to do that.
Absolutely. And one thing that's interesting that I was just reflecting on recently, I've worked with so many people over so many years. I mean, I've been doing this since the 80s. And having worked with people to help them stop smoking and stop drinking, it's interesting. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't gamble. I don't have any bad habits. And I really think that's almost an on-the-job hazard. Some people are exposed to chemicals and they develop certain problems because of the chemicals or challenges. I've developed good things because of being exposed to all this hypnosis over the years. So I'm void of any quote unquote bad habits.
Well, you're right, and this is something I'm going to kind of put you on the spot a little bit on, and that is, I've seen you and I have not met in person. We've spoken a few times, and I've seen a lot of pictures of you, and you seem to stay in shape too. You're not.
Right.
You and I are probably about the same age, and you're a trim, fit guy.
Well, thanks.
And I think that, I think that's one of the things that I admire about you, that you really do not just, you walk the talk, you just don't talk the talk. There's nothing worse than seeing somebody who's teaching you about certain things, but again, physically they just don't show that. And you do. You have that physical appearance. Your eyes are clear. You always seem to have that what do you call it? That life spark about you. And every time I see you in videos and in these pictures, you have a healthiness about you that comes from obviously living what you teach.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, Bert. Yeah, I do. I get plenty of sleep. I exercise almost every day. Get out and enjoy life. Eat right. Take a multivitamin and some fiber. 46 now, so certain things. Taking care of yourself are very helpful. They go a long way. I started juicing recently. So on one hand, I'm probably the most boring person because I don't have any of these, addictions or challenges that a lot of people have. But on the other hand, I do my best to live as the example. If I'm sharing with people how their lives can be better and more streamlined and they can potentially even live longer and healthier, then I should be as much of a living example of that as possible. So I appreciate mentioning that.
You bet. Something else, you didn't know this, but something else I wanted to mention, and that is Catherine, I believe, from your staff, sent us over one of your hypnotherapy audios, and it was the one about loving exercise. Now, kind of like you, I've always exercised. My wife and I have always maintained our physical fitness and our, healthy, aware consciousness type stuff. But we had kind of hit a lull. You know what I'm saying? We were just not as enthusiastic as we should be. And I thought, well, you know what? I believe what Steve does. Let's get this audio. And like I said, Catherine was nice enough to send it over to us, and we started using it every day. And it's on my smartphone. It's the alarm that wakes me up, and so we went to sleep with it. We started using it all the time, and just here recently, I want to say after 2 or 3 weeks of using it, all of a sudden, for no explanation, our fitness went through the roof. Our enthusiasm is back. We have reached some new goals that we had set for ourselves. We're excited to get back into the gym. And I really can attribute that to that hypnotherapy audio. And I forgot to mention this last time you and I spoke, but it goes to show you that this technology that you have at SteveGJones.com works if you work it. If you use these audios, you're going to get some results. And anyway, so thank you for that audio. It was wonderful. It works, and I love it.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm glad to have shared that with you. And Catherine's quite a bit into fitness also. She's been my office manager for, it was about 8 years now. So, and I use the recordings myself. I use my daytime affirmations a lot of times to program myself. And it's amazing. And you listen to a recording that says, I love to exercise. The next thing you know, you love to exercise for the rest of your life, which is the way you should do it. Just, people get caught up because they think, 10-year, 20-year class reunion, better get in shape, got to do something now, or something comes up or they feel they have to get in shape, and then they get in shape just for that. But these recordings are designed for lifelong change. You want to do something that's reasonable for you, as the doctors all recommend, and something that you can maintain over the course of your life.
I love it. Dr. Steve G. Jones, we're out of time. Guys, if you want to check out and experience some of the stuff we just talked about, go to SteveGJones.com. Steve, thank you so much for stopping by and sharing.
Hey, Bert, thank you.